Welcome to the Victory Speaks Inspired Conversation series, where iron sharpens iron. That's you and me sharpening each other. I am your host, Nicole Waldron, your voice of victory and your mental fitness coach. And I'm on a mission to create inspiring life conversations with everyday experts, unsung heroes, and thought leaders that will empower us to live a victorious lifestyle. As you join me on this journey through these inspired conversations, I hope you will be inspired to have intentional conversations that will lift you up and enhance your life. No matter the type of conversations we have, good, bad, funny, you name it, it can all be inspiring. Tonight, I invite you to get comfy, get a nice drink or a snack, grab a notepad, as you just never know when a wisdom key can be dropped. Please share this with your friends and get ready to engage with us. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Victory Speak Show. I am your host, Nicole Waldron, and I am so happy to have you joining me on the show today. It's still International Women's Month, and the theme is, well, in Canada, I love the theme in Canada, Women Inspiring Women. So my question to you is, who are you inspiring, and who's inspiring you? Let us know in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And you know what? I am excited tonight. I'm getting straight into it because we're celebrating and honoring a woman that has inspired so many in Canadian history, and I believe around the world now. And she is Viola Desmond. And there is a team of individuals that have been working tirelessly to put on the Viola Desmond Awards and Bursary. My victory guests tonight are some of the members from the team, and two of them are actual past award recipients, and one is going to be awarded this year as well. So it's exciting. We're going to have Nikki, Waheed. She is the experimental learning manager. Did I say that right, Nikki? You'll tell me when you come on. Shurla, Charles-Forbes, PhD candidate, manager talent, development, and strategic lead, and Talent Management Center of Expertise and Human Resources, and Darrell Bowden, Executive Director, Office of the Vice President, Equity and Community Inclusion at Ryerson. Now, I just want you to note, in 2021, the university announced that it would begin a renaming process to reconcile the legacy of Egerton Ryerson for a more inclusive future. So they have said we are going to write that chapter together, and I am loving it. So Victory Speak Victorians out there in the world, I want you to welcome them with a beautiful emoji, a heart, a sign, some sort of comment, and let them know that you are happy that they're on the show tonight. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So good to have you there. So, Darrell, how are you doing today? I know you're burning the candle at two ends.
I'm good. It's been a busy day, so keeps me young-ish.
Well, young. Yeah, well, listen, we're all going to be young together. We're all going to be young together. Nikki and Shurla, how are you guys doing today?
I'd say I'm doing great. This is the highlight of my day, so I'm happy to be here. Hey, it makes my evening brighter.
Especially when we kind of have similar names. When I was in Trinidad, they used to call me Nikki. So we have this sisterhood that you don't know about yet.
No, I do know about it, and I'll give you the wink. That's how we acknowledge each other.
All right. And Shurla, how are you doing?
Good evening. I am doing fantastic. It's was really looking forward to this show, so super excited to be here.
Well, I hope you're happy by the end of it tonight. And I'm going to ask you, Shurla, can you just tell us a little bit about what you do at the university?
Okay, so as you mentioned, Nicole, I am the manager of talent development and the strategic lead for. It's a long title, EDI ABR, so Equity, Diversity and Inclusion and Anti-Black Racism in our Human Resources Department in our Talent Management Center of Expertise. So basically, I lead the development of programs for staff across the university, and with the university released an anti Black Racism Climate Review Report in 2020. So after that, I've been working together with some of the other on different committees, Darrell included,
Wow.
to build EDI competencies and anti-Black racism competencies to be used across the university.
That is a portfolio and then some. And I like that you're Trini. So I might slip into my Trinidadian accent once, we go back and forth. Don't get jealous, Darrell. Don't get jealous.
No, no, it's
And
okay. It's okay.
I'm always in my Trinidadian accent, so that hasn't gone away.
When I
Nikki,
broke,
tell us a little
when
bit
I
about
break
what you
into my
do.
when I break into my Scotian twang, don't be upset either.
Don't worry, I come into Scotia in June, so I'm gonna be coming to you for some advice.
All
Nikki, so
right.
what do you do at the university?
So I work as an experiential learning manager, and what that means is that I support faculty and staff who are looking for any sort of internships or really any opportunity for students to gain experience. So we basically support the policies in that. But beyond that, I'm also what I call a career practitioner. So I'm really dedicated and focused on helping people find whatever that next opportunity is, or really any opportunity to develop themselves professionally. At Ryerson, I'm also the co-chair for the Black Faculty and Staff Community Network. And again, this is where we're really working hard to support Black faculty and staff within the community.
Mhm.
But again, our goal is always to use that to support the external Black community as well.
I am wondering when you guys are sleeping, Darrell. I'm getting a little concerned here
Especially
about
Darrell.
big portfolio. So Darrell, you're the big kahuna. What do you do? What's your responsibility at the university?
Uh, I have two roles that I kind of work in. I'm the executive director for the Office of the Vice President, which means I'm setting up policies because I'm still a relatively new vice president's office. So setting up policy procedures, just ways of engaging with the campus, navigating the spaces for how folks access the vice president. I manage the administrative team, the communications team, the business support team, as well as I am the director of education awareness and outreach. So working with my team of three, we navigate the campus and create programming and create workshops and learning series for student, staff, and faculty.
I'm going to advocate here for you today that somebody's going to increase your team at least by 3 more or 6, because this portfolio is what I would call supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and then some. My
And
God.
you've only heard the half of it, by the way. That's only
Wow.
half of it.
Wow. But this is phenomenal. And then you're actually curating the Viola Desmond Awards. And so, Darrell, it's been like 14 years, I know, since you've been doing this award. So before we get into the awards, you mentioned that you're Scotian, eh?
Mhm.
And so tell us about the beautiful, the wonderful Viola Desmond. Because not everybody knows who Viola Desmond is.
Viola is a woman who in 1946 was driving her own car. I need to make that very clear. Driving her own car across the province of Nova Scotia, going to one of the beauty salons that she had set up. Viola was the kind of person who, when she went to get her hair done at particular beauty salons, they would tell her that they don't do black hair. And so frustrated, she decided to go learn how to do hair herself. So she studied in New York with Madam C.J. Walker. She studied in Montreal and then came back to Halifax and set up her own beauty salon. Being Viola, that wasn't enough because she could only do so many heads of hair. She had to help other people be able to do hair in other parts of the province. So she set up her own beauty school and again went to work at making sure that Black women had the opportunity to look good and have their hair done and be taken care of, much like we would see in other salons. The fateful night, November 8th, 1946, she was driving to her salon, which was in Cape Breton. So in terms of those days, it would be about an 8-hour drive because there was no straight highway, it was back roads. Her car broke down and she ended up going to a mechanic in a little town called New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. That's where I'm from, so I don't know the story so well. And the mechanic there told her that the part that she needed for her car would not arrive until the following day. So she took a room in a hotel, was bored, and decided to go watch a movie. The Roseland Theater was right next to the hotel where she was staying. As she was going to the theater, she realized that she forgot her glasses. So when she approached the theater, she asked for a downstairs seat. Unbeknownst to her, they sold her a seat for the balcony area, which it's been called many things, but the clouds is what I remember it as when we were kids. But Viola didn't understand the difference between the two. So she sat in the lower bowl. She sat on the lower floor close to the screen so that she could watch the movie. While she was watching the movie, someone approached her and told her that you can't be here. You can't sit down here. And she's like, why? You didn't pay the 3 cents for the downstairs seat. You only paid 2 cents for the seat up in the balcony. So she said, fine, I'll come out and I'll pay the 1 seat. And then she was told, no, we can't sell the downstairs seats to people like you. And right then she knew what was going on. So Viola took a stand and sat back down in her seat, and she continued to watch the movie. She was approached by the theater manager, who was a 6'3", 300-pound gentleman, who basically told her she had to leave. She refused. Police came, and she was physically dragged out of the theater. On her way out, she lost her shoe. She dropped her purse. She was put in the paddy wagon and taken to jail and jailed overnight. She ended up being charged for an entertainment tax. So the difference in terms of the seat of downstairs versus upstairs was the 1 cent. She was charged with the idea of failing to pay the entertainment tax. She was charged, I believe she was fined, I think it was $22 or $20, which at that time would be quite a bit of money. And basically had a record from that point forward. Back she goes to Halifax once her car is fixed, and then things started to roll from there in terms of the Nova Scotia Advancement for Colored People got involved and supported her, and they took her case to court several times. They lost each time on a technicality. Never once was the idea of race brought up in the conversation. So fast forwarding is where we are now, where she's now on the $10 bill. And we can get into that story as we go along as well, because that story is very exciting.
Well, I got my $10 bill. Like when I got my $10 bill, I had to bring it out tonight. And I keep one in my wallet all the time because it's so significant, And for those of us who like numbers in one part of the world, 10 is the number of order. So I like that it's a $10 bill. They probably didn't even know what they were doing when they said the $10 bill, but 10 speaks to the number of order. What did it mean to you, Darrell, when you saw? Let's get into the $10 bill now. Okay. When you heard the news about, I want all your takes on it. When you all heard the news about the $10 bill, it may seem small to others, but how did you feel and being a Scotian?
I followed the whole process for the year prior to. So what happened was the Canadian what's it called, Bank of Canada put together the process where they named, I think it was 28 to 30 different women of Canadian history that they wanted to put on this $10 bill, and that became, in a lot of ways, a real competition for who got the most votes. And of course, I made sure that I reached out to as many people as I could to make sure that those calls were going in and those votes were going in for Viola. So out of a field of the 20 odd or 30 odd people that there were, Viola came through, and that she ended up on that $10 bill. And I was so excited that I actually went to Halifax when the bill was being launched and was there for the official launch. But of course, we had done some work with Bank of Canada prior to as well. And so we were in the know a little bit, but I didn't get to see the bill until that day. So I was super excited. The fact that we now have a Black Canadian woman on the $10 bill. And there were a lot of conversations at that time around, well, why a $10 bill? Should be on 100. Should be on. For me, a $10 bill is perfect because a $10 bill is what you slip into your niece and nephew's birthday card.
Yes.
Right? So those little people also get that history. I don't know how many kids I've given $100 to in a birthday card. Just saying.
Just saying. I know.
But the $10 bill was just that. It was something that allowed, it was accessible to everyone. And so it became that note that really galvanized the idea of we're still here. Black people have been in Canada for 400 years. And so now we're starting to see some of the recognition come from that. Yes, is there work still to be done? Of course. But we're one step closer with a story like Viola's.
Yeah, I know I cried. and I gave each of my nephews and nieces a $10 bill. I went, as you know, we were calling the bank all the time. Do you have it yet? Do you have it yet? When do you have it? And I remember running across the street to the bank when they said, yes, we have it. And I said, here, just give me all of this in $10 bills and end the conversation. And, you know, come in here and putting it in the thing. And I made sure I put two because I had to have the front and the back in my frame. So that was me. Shurla, how did you feel when you heard about the $10 bill?
Yeah, so similar to Darrell, excited that a black woman, a black Canadian woman, is on the bill, and it's it means a lot um, to us as blacks,
Mm-hmm.
and to have that message to the kids who are in the school. So yes, the $10 bill is something that they can actually see. And
Yes.
we collected so many of the $10 bills. I didn't want to. Up to now, I have not spent a single one of those $10 bills that I
Wow.
collected. I haven't spent it because to me it meant so much, and
Mm-hmm.
to think about all that Viola went through, and then all the campaign to get to where to get her face
Yes.
on that $10 bill. It's so significant. It means so much. We don't know if it would ever happen again
Again.
in
Yeah.
history, having another black person on a bill. So it's very significant for us.
You know, so many people don't know about Viola Davis. You know, I think about Canadian history, and I think about people sharing information, Black History Month, and they tend to always give us stuff of American history, and I'm like, hello, she's right there. She's right there. Nikki, how about you? How did you feel? What did you do?
Yeah, I think for me it was, for me, it was a symbol of recognition. I feel like, and not to take anything away from, Black men or anything like that, but I feel like Black women, around me especially, put in a lot of work in building our
Mm-hmm.
community, and putting themselves at the forefront of some of our issues. And those are also the loudest voice, whether it's in our communities or out there sort of, I don't want to say campaigning, but really advocating for us. So I just thought, while it's Viola Desmond, on that bill, it really represents the
Mm-hmm.
hard work of Black women in
Mm-hmm.
Canada and some of their sacrifices. We don't always get to see the results of our sacrifices. Viola Desmond didn't get to see really the full result
Yeah.
of where we are today. But I think this was a great tribute. And it wasn't just something that happens at Ryerson. It's not just something that
Yeah.
happens in one province, but it's national.
To
It's a
know. Yeah.
national recognition that we too are an inextricable part of the Canadian history. So that's what it meant to me.
You know, and anybody listening live and on the replay, welcome to the Victory Speak show. You know, I got some, as I said, phenomenal individuals here that are curating the Viola Desmond Awards. Let us know how you feel about Viola Desmond. Let us know what you did. If you got a $10 bill, what you did with it, what emotions you felt. We'd love to know. We'd love to share it. This is great information. And I'm not just asking the question because, you know, Nicole's curious and she wants to know. I think this is great history to share with your friends, your loved one, what Viola Desmond means to you. I tell you, when I got to Nova Scotia the first time, and it wasn't Nova Scotia, when I went to Winnipeg, because Winnipeg has the history museum, and I went up the new history museum, and I went up to the floor. I spent like a whole hour just in the little section with Viola Desmond. I have so many pictures. You think that's all the museum was about? Was about Viola Desmond. But you know, it just brings such. I know it just brings such joy, and you know, it's such a reminder when you feel like giving up, when things feel tough, and especially in the work that you guys are doing, especially in the DEI work and anti-Black racism, these are the reminders. I always say we need to have like those stones, those altars, those whatever you want to call it, those marquees that you need to have in front of you. So just when you feel like giving up, you go back, you look and say, no, it's this person. And so let's pivot the conversation a minute. So 14 years, Darrell, you are doing these awards. What made you decide that you wanted to do awards in Viola Desmond's name? Tell us, give us a little bit of the story. It's just us here. Great.
In 2009, I was sitting in my office, and a student that was working with me at the time, a male from the social work program, came into my office and asked, "What do you know about the Viola Desmond story?" And that just sparked a whole bunch of memories for me because, well, I heard the story as a kid. I've been to the theater. I can honestly say I've never sat in the clouds. I've never been in the balcony, but I've at least been in that theater. And so we just started having a conversation about the fact that Black women, and in particular Black women in academic environments, are not celebrated. They're not being seen in ways that they should be recognized. And so this led us to a whole conversation about, well, how do we recognize folks? How do we start to do this? And so I built the program around the idea of, I wanted this to be education and a celebration. The education piece took us to a place of starting to look at 3 or 4 of the awards each year. And I say 3 or 4 because we've grown in time to now having 5 awards that we give out each year. Are named after Black women in Canadian history. And they're from across the country. It's not just localized in Toronto. We try to pick individuals who were empowering and making change in the Black community for years before, the country was a country. And so we brought that together with the understanding of the Viola Desmond Award has to be the one that stands tall, and it's given to a high school student every year as a way of empowering that student to realize that they've now taken up a mantle. They've now taken the next step, and they walk on shoulders of folks who have been there before. And so it's about really letting folks know that there is a real rich history of Black Canadian people, and we want to be able to tell that story. And so that's what happened. Is it just snowballed from there, and it's just been amazing. It's been 14 years of fun, most of it.
Most of it. It makes me think that the pandemic must have definitely. I mean, I remember a couple of times being there when Joan Pierre was working on the awards and coming in and seeing it and experiencing it live and hearing some of the entertainers' liberties, but seeing the people and listening, and the room would be packed with people just talking. Now, Nikki and Shurla, you two have received Viola Desmond Awards. Like, what does that mean to you? Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll say Shurla's our newest recipient.
Oh, okay, so we go Nikki first. Nikki first. Okay.
What did it mean to me? Was that the question there?
Yes.
So I have to be honest with you. I had zero idea that I was going to be nominated by my team. Again, I'm just sort of doing my thing around the university and just trying to, just bring everybody into the conversations of careers. And of course, I was doing that with Black students as well, but I really didn't expect it. And when I found out that I was going to be nominated, I felt in some way seen, even when I didn't really want to be, sort of, but it made me feel seen. But I think most importantly for me, I wanted my daughter to see it as well. It was very, very important for my daughter to see me up there, getting this award. Reason being that she's also had to sacrifice a lot of sort of lonely nights at home in order for me to do my work well. So it wasn't just a win for me, it was also a win for my daughter, and I needed her to be able to be with me to celebrate that, not just for the sacrifice she'd made prior to that, but also for what she can achieve in the future. Just to let her know it is possible to be doing your work sort of behind somewhere where you may not have the recognition, but someone's always watching, someone's always seeing. And, in due time, you will get yours as well, but continue to do what you do passionately and without really needing to get that recognition, but knowing that somebody somewhere sees you and you're also impacting someone somewhere. So really, more than anything, it was about my daughter.
I love that answer. That's inspiring. It makes you just say a moment. What about you, Shurla? Now you're the newest recipient of the staff award, I understand. How are you feeling about this?
I am feeling very humbled. Humbled and also honored. When one of my colleagues reached out to let me know that she was going to nominate me, I was surprised. Not surprised in, bad way or anything, but because similar to Nikki, I do what I do because I love what I do. I understand that we have so much work that needs to
Mhm.
be done. Um, so I consider when I think about like Viola Desmond and all those who have done so much work and
Mhm.
those shoulders that I'm standing on, I consider what I do as just a small piece. But I do the work that I do because I know there are a lot of people that
Mhm.
don't have a voice. For example, a lot of people don't have access to certain things, and by me just doing a small part of a little piece, I believe it will help in that long-term goal that we are working towards. So receiving the award, it really made me feel as though you know others are seeing, although I am not doing it to be recognized. I'm
Yeah,
not doing
yeah,
it um, to because I'm not one to say, oh, I'm doing this. I'll just be doing stuff in the background, just plowing away, getting it
yeah,
done.
yeah.
And so it really felt good to that others were seeing the work that I am doing and the difference it makes, because I always tell myself, if it makes a difference in the life of one person,
Come on now.
I have achieved something. So that's what I do. And it's similar to Nikki, I have a young daughter. When she was in elementary school, she did, one of her presentations on Viola Desmond. So, for her seeing me get this award, and I know my family, my daughter and my partner, he makes a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah,
They make a
yes.
lot of sacrifices. When I'm up at whatever hour, when you ask about, when do we sleep? I don't
Yeah.
know. So they too make huge sacrifices for me to be able to do what I can do. And I always say they are my rocks. Without their
Mhm.
love and support, it would be very difficult for me to do what I'm doing. So it felt really good. It felt, but I'm still very humble because I know even across our Ryerson community, there are so many women doing such fantastic work, and for
Yes.
me to be um, selected from, to be the recipient this year, it it meant a lot, and it demonstrated to me that we have to continue using our courage, using our voice in whatever
Mm.
form it takes to continue to work to make that difference that we want to see.
See, I love the answers, and I love the truth that you stand in. And it's so inspiring to hear. Dr. Miles, I remember him telling me once that, it's more important to inspire than to motivate. And when you inspire people, it creates a seed in people's hearts, and they continue to do more. And Darrell, as you sit there as the proud papa of this awards, how do you feel when you hear these two women, and just reflecting on the various young women, young men, you've seen along the time, get awards, um and come true, because I know the men are being inspired, the young boys are being inspired. You're seeing so many people come through, and even the team that works on it, because it's not just women working on the show. What does it make you feel now that you've seen it 14 years later?
Yeah. Well, we've definitely grown. I'll say that much. We've come a long way. I think back to that first year that we did it, and we worried about who was going to show up, and how many people are going to come, because there was a lot of work that we had to do
Mhm.
initially around. It isn't just a Black event, folks. This is a
Mhm.
university-wide event, and everyone can
Mhm.
come. And so initially, when we walked in that room that first night, and there was like, we had 50 chairs, and there were like 40 people in the room, we were like, this is great, this is amazing. And it's only grown from there. So now it's just, I love the energy that comes from this award ceremony. The signature event for the campus, We've had the president of the university speak every year. And so it's become one of those events that folks now are looking forward to. And so the number of calls I get on a weekly basis right now of when's happening and are the recipients named yet? Are you going to let us know? Can we tell people once I've told them? It's just the energy from it. It's just amazing. But I have to come back to a point that both Nikki and Shurla represent. It's that humbleness. It's that idea of, you know what, I'm getting this and I don't know why, not recognizing the fact that they do tremendous amounts of work. They do amazing things on our campus and they stand out in our communities. And again, I think this is one of the reasons why we definitely continue to do this is we want individuals to stand in the moment, own it. Shurla, you're doing an amazing job. You're done with your PhD. Like that's huge.
Dr. Shurla. Dr. Shurla. Let me call it out right. Dr. Shurla Charles-Forbes. Hey.
Like Nikki has navigated so many different experiences in terms of the campus as well, in terms of rising to where she is. And it's not the work that we do around equity, diversity, inclusion. It's not always the happy work.
No, it isn't.
We see this. We see the tears when no one else does. Mm-hmm. We understand the pain of not being recognized or being the only one out of class being asked to speak on behalf of your community. Like we get all of those things. And that's why we do this stuff. That's why I do this stuff. And that's the energy that comes from events or every night of the events when we do it and the various speakers and the fact that now as we name awards after contemporary people and they're actually joining us and being part of the celebration to give out the award in their names. Like it's just phenomenal the amount of energy that we have. And
explain that, Darrell, because you said people who are an award is giving out in their name, and every year it's different. And this is what I think one makes it very unique because I don't think I've ever seen any award show do something like that. Just see if you could break that down for the people there.
Sure. My thinking around the design of this was there are so many Black women's shoulders with whom we stand. Mm-hmm. and shoulders that we stand on that I couldn't just have one award name and just leave it at that. So in naming this the Viola Desmond Award Ceremony, I've centered the Viola Desmond piece around the high school student because I really want that to be an empowering moment to actually take that high school student to that next level.
Okay.
Each year, though, the other awards, so the faculty, staff, the Ryerson student, the Ryerson alumni awards, are named after different Black women of history. So committee comes together, we look across the country to find out who are the trailblazers, who are the folks that are empowering, who are making differences, or more importantly, who made the differences.
Okay.
I think of Dr. Carrie Best, and I think of Rosemary Brown, and I think of Maria Angelique, right? Some of these folks who are part of our history. Rose Fortune, Portia White, like these people are part of our history that nobody knows. And so I wanted this to be an education component. So each of the awards comes with the recognition of the individual, and we read their bio, and we make sure that folks know who those individuals are. And then we celebrate the recipient for doing the work that they're doing. And so what we've tried to do over the last little while is we as we go across the country, there are folks who are contemporaries. There are folks that are still with us. And I think of people like Dr. Pamela Pelt or former judge of the Citizenship Court in Canada, first Black woman Citizenship Court judge, I might add, who is now our patron for Viola. When we pulled the conversation and started talking about who she was, nowhere would I have never have thought that is now a mentor of mine. I'm now, Auntie Pam is a friend.
Auntie Pam.
At Auntie Pam's house, and Auntie Pam has lots of thoughts and ideas and ways of connecting. This is a way of us doing a sort of a mixing of the generations, and folks get to learn from those that have gone forward and those that are here now, and they get to share stories. And that's what this is really about. It's about building up the community to understand that we are a marked group of people that have a lot of differences within us, but we have a ton of similarities as well. And this is really about how do we pull those together and just make it a showcase of talent.
Well, I'm loving this right here. I'm about to drop a comment. You all ready? Darrell for Premier. Keisha Wint is on the line. Keisha Wint is on the line. Darrell for Premier.
Thank you, Keisha.
Keisha is going to be, I understand Keisha is going to be one of your performers at this year's show. Tell us about the entertainment. Who's going to tell us about the entertainment? Who's entertaining us at the show this year? Nikki?
Well, for entertainment, you just mentioned one of them, of course, Keisha Wint, who's going to be gracing us with her lovely, lovely voice. We also have Paulina O'Keefe, who actually created I don't want to say brand new, but really it is it's a poem actually that was created specifically for this year's event. So nobody's heard it before. So if you do want to hear it, by all means, please tune into the Viola Desmond Award event this year, which is going to be taking place next week, Monday, between 6 and 9 p.m.
All right, we're gonna somebody drop it in the chat. We're gonna drop it in the chat where people
will drop it in the chat. And then we have the great pleasure of actually working with Tiana Ridley Padmore. So she is one of our colleagues who actually works at the university, and she's also a published author. So she's going to be reciting a poem, I believe, that appears in her book. So again, if you want to come out and hear some really phenomenal Black artists, is what I'll call them, artists and women, please come. Tune in. We won't just be talking about the awards and the recipients, but you'll also be very much entertained.
I listen. I'm looking for it. I look forward to it every year.
Yeah.
And Darrell, you mentioned some really amazing award recipients and how you're doing it in honor of. And somebody actually, Lisa Gibson, mentioned one name here, Verda Cook, as a name for people to remember. Shurla, could you tell us about some of the award recipients this year?
Sure. I just have to go to my little cheat sheet here.
That's okay. I'm gonna drop the link for the awards in the chat, so people can go in and go and sign up.
Okay, so in terms of the honorees, so Darrell mentioned that we look across the country, not just within Ontario. So this year we have the Miss Robin Maynard will be the honoree for the Ryerson Faculty Member Award. So how we normally term it, Viola Desmond Award in honor of Miss Robin Maynard, and then the person would receive the award in honor of that person. For the Ryerson Staff Member Award, we have Miss Nilo Hopkinson. Then for the Ryerson Student Award, Dr. Eugenia Dordu, and Ryerson Alumni, Dr. Jill Andrew. And then we have the high school, the high school award would be, we always leave off the same, Viola Desmond. So those are the honorees who the awards would be in name of. And now I just hand the virtual mic over to Nikki to speak about this recipients. Or am I not going in your order?
You're good.
Do we want to actually name the recipients this year?
Yes, they know who they are.
Excited to do that. Yes. Okay. All right. So our recipients this year, so the Ryerson student that will be receiving an award is Nikisha Sampson. Our high school student is Kia Busby and Ashley Levins. This year, we also had two recipients of the Viola Desmond Bursary, which was Naya Martin Heng and Balumi Edbawumi. For our faculty award, it's Dr. Janelle Brady. And of course, do I have to tell you who the staff award goes to? I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let the audience, because that's how we'll check to see if they're listening. I'm going to let the audience actually put that in the comments while I mention the next person. And then, of course, our alumni award goes to Eternity Mattis. Now I'm going to check in your chat to see if anybody knows who won the staff award this year.
Nobody's commenting yet.
Nobody's commenting?
They're very quiet crowd tonight, it seems.
All right. Well, I hope they pause the video once they're watching it. Oh, Perfect. So we have Tanya who said Shurla. Oh,
Shurla.
it's Shurla.
Carissa's like, Shurla.
Thank you so much, Carissa. Carissa, you've got it spot on. Thanks, Tanya.
Well, she lives in the same house with me. That's my daughter. So
She better know. She better know. She better know.
Carissa, you just won. You're having a great dinner if you haven't had it already.
and I
With
work with
dessert.
Tanya, so.
Oh my God. I just love it. So the awards is next week, Monday.
Yes.
At 6 p.m. And people, please go to the chat. Please visit the Ryerson website. Put in Viola Desmond. It will come up. And I like, see, Keisha is so engaged. I can't wait to hear her song. She's performing one of her new songs. I understand many doing big things. I'm so proud to be a Black woman. We're so proud of you, Keisha, and what you're doing out there and making your mark. And so we heard about some of the awardees and that kind of stuff. What do you want the legacy for? Because I know each of you are working. You're working on this. You've received the award. Darrell, you're the architect. The architect is the creator.
I have to say, in 2010, I did get an honorary Viola Desmond Award. I was just asked.
Congratulations, architect. So, to the architect, what would you want the legacy, of the awards to be when you give up the baton? But not the ghost, but the baton to someone else.
I've been trying to give up that baton for a while now. What do I want the legacy to be? I think the legacy is really about, the fact that Viola was the tree that planted a seed in terms of building a community of strong Black women. Because when I think of just even Viola's story around removed from the theater and all that transpired afterwards, her sister was sitting in a class when she was 77 and heard about Viola's story, brought up the conversation once again, and here we are now talking about Viola being on the $10 bill. But what's really important is the fact that Viola's pardon was signed in 2010. So all of her conviction and everything was wiped out with what was called the first posthumous free pardon that was ever signed in Canadian history. And it was signed by the first Black woman to hold the office of Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia, Dr. Mayanne Francis.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this whole approach or this whole piece, that it's more than just the one person. This is the community. This is who we are as a people. Our the women of our community, they are the mothers, the aunts, the sisters, yes. But they're also doctors, lawyers, judges, construction workers, airline pilots, you name it. The women are doing it. And it's happening in our community. So for me, the legacy component is that Viola's work and Viola's notoriety wasn't because she set out to be a social justice advocate. Viola was a Black woman traveling in her car, going to her salon. So she was in business. The fact that this happened to her and has taken us to where we are really is about even one person can make it. And that the idea of the whole community coming together and being engaged in the conversation and understanding that, Viola desegregated public space in Nova Scotia, which spread across Canada based on what took place for her.
That's huge.
It's huge in terms of what the recognition is. So for me, legacy, I want to have a building on the Ryerson campus that is the Viola Desmond Social Justice Building that really allows us to showcase who Viola is and helps us to keep the memory alive.
Well, folks, I'm saying, did you hear what he just said? We are calling it out. We are calling, and this is a Victory Speak show, because when we call out stuff on this show, we call it into victory. We call it into manifestation. So we're calling out that social justice building. We're calling out, if you know a friend of a friend, we have many millionaires here in Canada who just like to give. Some people just like to give to cats and dogs. Let's give it to a social justice cause. I'm just saying, not calling any one particular individual out, but if you have some money and you know somebody with some money, let's get the work done. Let's put our money where our mouth is. You said something there you know, um, it in 2010. My God. And then one person that I think we haven't mentioned yet um, is her sister.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Darrell.
Wanda Robson, Dr. Wanda Robson, I might add, was an amazing individual. She just passed away in February, and it's a tough one because I've really gained a friend. I've gained, a grandmother, someone who was there, a storyteller, like someone who had history to impart. Wanda went through her own stuff in her life, but through it all, realized that Viola's story was the one that really had to be highlighted, and so she became Viola's champion. She started the process of the free pardon. And then came the stamp, and then came the ferry, and then came the school, and then came the parks here, there, and everywhere. Then came the street. Then became the star on Toronto's Walk of Fame. Then we went to the museum and the Human Rights Museum out in Winnipeg. And then there's in Ottawa, there's another museum site that has a Viola section, all the way up to and including having this $10 bill with Viola's face on it. It's huge. It's ginormous. And to think that Wanda started the process when she was 77.
Wow.
Now, she died at 95 as the last member of the family. It was quite a large family. I believe there were 8 or 9 members of the family. So Wanda was the last of them. But again, has left such a mark on everyone that she touched. And she came to visit us at Ryerson 4 or 5 times over the time that we've been doing this. And the thing that I love about what she would do is wherever she spoke, she would talk about Ryerson does this award ceremony every year. And Ryerson was one of the first universities to actually have a bursary in Viola's name. So again, she knew that we were onto something good, and she loved us doing it, and we loved doing it.
What would be one thing you would want to do to say to her if Wanda was here right now? What would you want to say to her right now?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the stories. Thank you for the energy. Thank you for the warmth of being brought into the family. Don't know me from a hole in the wall, but as soon as we start talking, it's like we've been hanging out for years. And she would come to different ceremonies and whatnot in the city. And when she would come, we'd have that chance to just talk. And Wanda was a storyteller. She loved telling stories. And talking about Vi, as she would call her, and telling about what Vi's story was and what Vi did the night that she sat in jail and all of those things. Wanda loved to tell those stories and then have all of her work accumulate and become this $10 bill. That's a regularly circulating $10 bill. So there have been other women on bills. I want to make this clear. There have been other women on bills. Right. But those specialty notes, they come and go. So they're out for a year and they're gone. This is a regularly circulating bill. It will be around for 20 or 25 years. And Viola will be there for that long. So her history, her story is emblazoned into Canadian culture now. She's in everybody's home.
Listen, if you don't have a Viola Desmond bill, $10 bill, if you've never seen it, you better go to the bank and ask for one. And go get it. Go get $100 and change it and say, I only want it in Viola $10s. And if you don't have it, go find it for me. I'm telling you. And I thank you for sharing such an intimate story. Go ahead, Darrell.
I want to make one other point about Viola and about her story that I think sometimes gets overshadowed. Viola's story took place on November 8th, 1946. The Montgomery bus boycott with Rosa Parks began in 1958. Mm-hmm. So Viola was 9 years before the bus boycott. 1955, sorry, 9 years before the bus boycott. So Viola is not the Rosa Parks of Canada. Let's dispel with that myth altogether.
Yes.
Viola is Viola. Yes. Rosa was Rosa. Viola also was an individual. Rosa worked with Martin Luther King and Ralph Abernathy in the nonviolence movement that was happening. So when she decided not to give up her seat on the bus, a machine kicked in. Yes. Viola went to watch a movie without glasses, and the machine kicked in. So the stories are not the same. The history, the nature of what it is not the same. And then the last point I'll make about Viola is to think about it from an economics point of view. We lost Viola when she was 65. Her business failed after everything took place with this court case. Her marriage fell apart. Think about what she could have been if things were different. You know, Madam C.J. Walker was the first black woman millionaire in the United States. I would argue Viola would have been the first black woman millionaire in Canada.
Yes. Yes. That Darrell, that makes me pause. That makes me pause. You know, and Keisha, you're so right. I wish she was here to witness what has been accomplished on her behalf in her name. And to think that, you know, when I listened to you, Nikki and Shurla, you said, you know, your daughters are key, center point to what you're doing, and they're seeing the sacrifice. And if we would all remember today that you may not even realize the work that you're doing, the legacy that you're leaving behind, the imprint, the impact that it's going to leave for somebody else. And when you work from your heart and you do things and you follow your heart in truth and integrity. And I'm thinking of Wanda. She's so humble. Like, you know, when she comes into a room, it's that soft giant that came into a room. She entered this room with such grace and yet with such pizzazz, and then you just wanted to just circle around her like the grandmother, but you wanted to get at her feet and get all her wisdom. And to think, people, I want, you know, if somebody who has a mature woman in their life over 70, you know, who's thinking life is or if you are that woman listening, I want you to hear that Wanda started this fight, this legacy dream, this advocacy at 77. 77 is not what it used to be. When you said someone was 77, we kind of want to park them up and put them in the old people home or retirement. No, 77 is your new 50. So for whoever is out there, 77 is your new 50. And before I go on to the next, I'm going to ask you, Nikki and Shurla, about the legacy for you. But Keisha, you're on a roll. She's now calling you for prime minister. Darrell for prime minister. Keisha, write the song. We're going on the road. Darrell for prime minister. We might make it a soca soul song. I don't even know. Keisha, is there such a thing as a soca soul song? We might just create one today. Nikki, legacy. When you think of the legacy, what legacy would you want for this as your part, as you play a role in putting on this event?
Yeah, you know, I think the one thing that's sort of been on my mind this year, very particularly, and I started to bring that up and I just kind of paused, but I think it bears saying again, is that we have to celebrate. Is it our heroes, our advocates, our like, you know, we have to celebrate each other while we're here. When I heard of Wanda's passing, that was the first thing I thought, because when she came, I didn't get to meet her because I was so busy with other things. But I think we have to make it a point to celebrate all of those folks that we admire while they're here, because when they're gone, it's a name on an award. Meanwhile, while they're here, they're doing so much to lift us up. You know, they're doing so much to sort of push us ahead. So for me, I hope that, you know, beyond sort of us three sitting here, is that this continues and we continue to take this as a serious opportunity to celebrate each other, celebrate our excellence. You know, recognize those folks that we know are working so hard behind the scenes, who we also benefit from. You know, we talk about our family sacrifice, but how many folks are benefiting from Shurla's sacrifice, for instance?
Yes.
You know, when Shurla was talking about, you know, her work at Ryerson, I'm like, there's more, you know, because Shurla was one of the first people that actually welcomed me to Ryerson. She may not know that, but that was while she was doing her job, you know, but I'd always be looking out for Shurla in the hallways. She doesn't know this either, you know, not until I got to sort of sit down and work with her on Viola Desmond and even the Black Faculty and Staff Network could I easily and boldly say, you know, hi, Shurla, how are you? I've been watching you for so long. I just want to say thank you, you know, but why wait till then? You know, I met her 5 years earlier than that. You know, why should the university have to wait till we're gone, to then put someone's name on a plaque. So for me, it's how do we celebrate each other while we're still here, while we're still able to tell our stories or each other's stories, while we're still able to speak to the generation behind us about how we got through, because they're going to need to hear those stories. I heard those stories, and that's what gives me the boldness to push forward even when I feel like stopping. So how many other folks need to hear that? Even you mentioning just now, Wanda was 77. I never looked at it that way, even as Darrell was saying that story. Right. But again, let's look out for those stories now. Let's recognize them now. Let's call them out now, right? So that they are celebrated in this lifetime, not when they may not be able to hear us.
We got to give everybody their flowers now. And
Absolutely.
I tell you, that's the purpose behind, if I was to say anything, that's one of the main purposes behind this show, is giving their people their flowers, letting them shine. Every voice needs to be heard, and every voice has a frequency. And if it's just, and you said it, Shurla, at the beginning of the show, even if one person listened to this show and shared something that they learned that can make them be a better self, or go on to the next day, my job here is done. And so, Shurla, hearing what Nikki said, I don't know if you knew that, but look at what Nikki just said. And Darrell, I could only imagine. I'm sitting here and, like, you may have heard some of these things for the first time because I'm seeing you nodding your head. What does the legacy of doing this Viola Desmond Awards mean to you?
It means a lot. And hey, there's my sister-in-law.
Hey, Trisha, sister-in-law.
You see, I did spread the word.
Amen.
And yes, Nikki, I do remember the first new employee orientation that you participated in, that I was in. So I do remember. And to me, working with, you know, on the Viola Desmond Award Committee and having that legacy, sometimes I believe we tend to gravitate to the loudest, or whoever speaks the loudest are the ones that get what they want, or they're the ones that's heard. And when I reflect on the work of Viola Desmond, and it wasn't a big rally. It wasn't something very boisterous, right? It was very, she did her thing in her calm way. And sometimes those of us who tend to be quiet or tend to just move in the background, just doing stuff quietly, tend to be the ones that's forgotten. And I think we have to pay attention to that, especially those of us who are Black and are termed as quiet or presumed to be quiet,
Yes.
tend to be overlooked. So I think a big part of it is not underestimating, not underestimating people. Let everybody, let us recognize everybody for what they bring to the table, because
Yes.
we all bring different things.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's a loud voice, whether it's a quiet voice, we all contribute in different ways. So part of the legacy, part of the working on this is to remember those voices that are not heard because they may operate in a different way. And also, I think about, and I was at a conference a few days ago, and one of the things that I was reminded of is that sometimes we look at heroes as you know like now with Viola Desmond, right? We think about the $10 bill. We think of, but she didn't live to see all of that. When Viola was going through all of that, her marriage broke down. She had to
Yeah.
move out of Canada. So we don't think about the pain and suffering that a lot of these, who we term as our heroes,
Yeah.
experience for themselves, their families. So I think we have to pay attention to those things when it's happening, and try to be supportive. Try to reach out to those who really need us, or everybody, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact. Nikki
Yes.
mentioned, celebrating while people are here, and that's one of the things we are trying to push with the Black Faculty and Staff Community Network, really celebrating while you're here. But I also want to add, not just celebrating, the successes, but really being there and open to those who really need that
Yes.
support, especially the emotional support. We are still in a pandemic. I hear people saying about, oh, there are sessions on post-pandemic. We are still in a pandemic, right? So how are we supporting each other, especially as Black buddies in this space who may be suffering a lot more than others? So these are some of the things I want us to think about. How can we really support? How can we really celebrate? And really acknowledge those who are not being heard.
So well said. Um, and look who's on the line. There's this young woman on the line who herself wouldn't mind me telling her age because we tell it all the time. Who is 77 and going into a new realm. Anne Marie saying good night, but I'm going to drop this one for you here. And here she comes. More people are jumping in. Joan Pierre, great to hear you guys. Miss being involved, and she's a past honoree, and she's
Yes.
a past a person being involved in working on the Viola Desmond Awards. Joan, I know the team misses you tremendously. There's nobody like a Joan Pierre, and 77 years old, new career in Amnesty International. We say congratulations to you, Miss Joan. You are changing the landscape. Tanya is saying, we don't know people's struggles. We need to support our brothers and sisters, and we certainly do. We certainly do, because you made such a good point, and you all have, especially Viola, not even knowing that after doing his struggle, what this would be. So do your due. And so I'm going to ask you one last question as we wind down tonight. I could stay all night with you guys because I'm learning so much. There's some things I knew, but some things I didn't know. And you can't be on the Victory Speak show without telling me, what does victory mean to you? So Shirley, I'll start with you. What does victory mean to you?
That's what I had to do some thinking. Um, so, so to me, victory means triumph.
Mhm.
Triumph in the sense of when I think about us as Black folks in spaces, how can we, um, it be victorious when I think about us, you know, driving in neighborhoods and not being stopped. To me,
Mm,
that's a victory, right? Because I know personally there are some areas I would never go in. I would never drive in certain areas at night. I think about going into the stores,
mhm.
right? Victory is not being followed um, because they think you're going to steal something.
Yes.
To me, that's a huge part of it. And sometimes I actually buy something just for them to see I have the money to buy it because you're following me all over the store. Or stopping myself and my daughter in a store to ask, where something is in a lane when there are people in uniforms who are clearly working there, but you don't ask them. You don't stop and ask them anything.
Mhm.
That's part of victory. That's part of what it means to me. And part of it is also where we can be at the table to
Mm.
make the decision, that decision making process where we have a voice, but also where they take into consideration our voice.
Yes.
Because sometimes we are the tokens,
Come on now.
right? So victory is showing, we have that voice, but we are being heard and we are part of the decision making process. And also where we are living in a society that is not just physically free, but mentally free as
Mm.
well from discrimination and oppression. So those are some of, and as well, I could go all night, Nicole, but
Listen, you
I'll
can
pause
send
there.
me quotes. You can send me quotes because we're going to be putting together those victory quotes for people to really think and sail on. And and I say to anyone, the one point that you made about tokenism, even if you get put into a position and there is tokenism, take it and make a difference. Don't worry about how you got there. Just when you get there, just do what you got to do. Stay focused. Call a friend. Say it's getting to me. Call a friend. They will encourage you. Get the mentors because it's going to happen and you can make it, you can really make it. I'm going to go to Nikki in a minute. I'm just going to do a little shout out here. Uh we got, good night, very well said, sis, and great panel
That's my
tonight.
brother.
You see, I know. I had to throw it up there. I had to throw it up there. Um, Thank you, Tanya, for tuning in. And she says, well done. She's gone. But, Tanya, make sure and catch the end of the show. Come back and watch the replay because you can watch the replay on the YouTube on Victory Speak 7. So, Nikki, what does victory mean to you?
Well, I thought about it long and hard a little bit. And the only thing that, the one thing that keeps coming to me is the whole idea of failing forward. So for me, victory is about failing forward. I don't have to be perfect when I know that I can fail forward. I can not do something well, or I can fail at something, but within that is growth. So for me, when I think of victory, it's that I've fallen, I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them only to be better the next time. And all that leads to excellence as well, again. And even when things, don't go my way, or even when things happen, I have another one, this too shall pass. So for me, those two are very closely linked. So me, it's about failing forward. I've done a lot of that in my life. And I think it's only made me better. And braver and bolder too, just knowing that there's no one mistake I can make in this life that will kill me. Well,
I know. I feel that was deep, Nikki. I feel like I need a show just to unpack what victory means to people. We can do a whole show on this victory. We're coming. I'm gonna be pulling some guests here. So, the architect, Darrell. Victory. What does victory mean to you?
Victory for me is the realization of a dream. It's the idea of a goal, something that you wanted to have achieved, something that you wanted to make happen. It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be something small, but something that's important to you. Other people might not see it as a victory, but that's not your concern. It's about what happens for you, the impacts of being able to make that achievement that are noted in your history. They're noted in other people's history. You've arrived, you've achieved, you've made it. Like all of those pieces. That's the victory to me. That idea of, again, we stand on the shoulders of so many people that have gone before. And when we think about, the Black women who have held our community together, I go back to, slogans that we hear all the time. And say the names of Black women. Say the names of those Black women that have come before you, because it's important that we see that victory. We see them. An example is we've been talking about all evening, that $10 bill with Viola's face on it. That's a Black woman right there, a Canadian Black woman on a Canadian bill that hadn't had a face on it other than the Queen of England for how long?
Come on now.
Here we are. And, I'll just end with the idea of, Maya Angelou's, she wrote that poem of we rise.
Still I rise. Yes.
And here we are.
Well, folks, we're bringing the show to a Selah, a pause in victory, because we have had some amazing conversation about Viola Desmond, the awards. Be sure to go to the Ryerson website and register for the awards. That's happening next week, Monday, on the 21st, just in case, the 21st of March, if you're watching live and on the replay, and at 6 p.m. and register to attend. I want to thank my guests for coming here tonight. And I want to leave you with a few thoughts. I always like to leave you with a quote. And my favorite quote is one that I wrote, but I wrote it by inspiration. Love is in the details. So be detailed in your loving. And, Maya Angelou says, when you get, give, and when you learn, teach. And what more fitting for tonight? I remind you, as I remind myself every day, seek to have an inspired conversation with someone you love, someone you meet along the way, someone you just don't know. It can even start with a smile. Your conversations are inspired by your truth, your love, your story. Make sure they're meaningful, and it can just brighten someone's day. Create a vision. Look, Darrell had a vision out of a conversation, and that vision has come into the Viola Desmond Awards, and many people are going to learn from it and be inspired about it. And then there was an intention behind it. He was intentional, and he set out an intention, and now that it's cultivated, and 14 years later, this vision is cultivated, and it's transforming lives. And we are giving ovation to many. Over 14 years, many have been celebrated in the now. And I'm sure that when the team is finished, they will rest and they will be restored. And in order for Darrell and the team to make this happen, they had to yield to the process. They had to humble. Do you know what I just did? I just showed you the victory in the Viola Desmond Award. Just look at the little VICTORY, victory. And so find the acronym, find the sentences that speaks to victory in your life. You can watch this show on the replay on Victory Speaks, the YouTube play. Subscribe. Victory Speaks 7. Twitter and Instagram. Follow me on Victory Speaks 7. On Tuesdays, you can catch me on Clubhouse. And if you want to check out the Victory Speaks Mindset Show, you can go to the podcast at Victory Speaks. Anywhere you go. Miss Joan Pierre is jumping, and we're going to give her the last word of the night before we go. Great show. Thanks, Joan Pierre. Oh, she's giving me kudos. Behave yourself. We're going to pull her off the screen now. She's starting to get into stuff. She started getting into stuff that she's not supposed to get into here tonight. Joan Pierre, we love you. We appreciate you. We celebrate you. And we are going to say good night, bid you adieu, and we hope to see you at the Viola Desmond Awards.